be a screw, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to Cypherfics. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the third part of, What If Ichigo Enters Freezing? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Raven 716 on fanfiction.net. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Okay. Miyabi cried out. Just don't hurt us and we won't bother you or the other students again. She said as her two other limiters helped the unconscious one. Then I suggest you get moving before I change my mind. Ichigo snarled as the flaming dragon looked down at Miyabi and roared loudly, making her and her limiters run for the door. Satellizer and Kazuya walked up to Ichigo while he deactivated his volt weapon and sighed calmly. Sheesh, that was a pain in the butt. Just then he heard the door burst open. Chiffon and Taisi came out as quick as they can. I just heard that there was a fight. Chiffon said as she walked towards him. There was, but it subsided now. Ichigo replied. Miyabi was here, wasn't she? Chiffon asked him. Hell, yeah, Ichigo replied. I showed her what for, no one was injured though. Oh, Yokata, Chiffon said in thought. Then she noticed the cuts on his right hand. Ichigo, what happened to your hand? It's nothing. He replied. It doesn't even hurt really. Her daggers only tickled me like tiny little feathers. Wow. Taisi thought. Strawberry Head here saved the boy and the untouchable queen from Miyabi. Atiya said when she landed in front of Ichigo from the open window a floor higher than where he is. That's good. Chiffon said as she then sighed in relief. That means, Miss Bridget isn't in trouble. As for you Atiya, Strawberry Head really? Ichigo said. Ease off the names you Oompa Loompa. Big Red. Atiya yelled. Kindergartner. He rebuked. Brindy. Atiya rebuked back. At least girls don't pad their bras to make their melons bigger, unlike you. Ichigo said, causing the entire roof to go silent as Atiya gritted her teeth in anger. Why you? Atiya snarled as she raised her right leg and kicked him in the groin, making everyone wince from seeing that. Ichigo's face twitched in sheer pain for a couple of seconds and then regained his calm expression before Atiya looked up at him. Hee that didn't even hurt the slightest. Ichigo said with a chuckle, but his thoughts have their own opinion. Ooh oh oh. Jiminy crickets, that severely hurts. Ichigo thought. Now I know how Kisuke feels when he got kicked in the ball by Hiyori. Hey, let's not get ahead of ourselves, you two. Chiffon said as she slowly moved Atiya away. Hey Ichigo, do you need an ice pack? No thanks, Chiffon. I am gonna be fine. Ichigo replied, chuckling sheepishly. Can I see where it hurts? Chiffon asked with a smile. Wah, no. Please leave my downstairs out of the question. Ichigo cried with his eyes closed, making Chiffon smirk at him as she unbuckled his belt. Ichigo immediately opened his eyes and pulled his pants away from her. Ah, Ichigo, Chiffon whined while pouting at him. Ichigo sighed as he turned to Kazuya and Satellizer, whom were both blushing at the unexpected subject at hand. Hey, are you two okay? Ichigo asked them. Yeah, thanks again for saving us Ichigo. Kazuya said. I appreciate you coming to help us. Satellizer said while she turned away while blushing. I know, what had just happened just now was completely unexpected. Ichigo said while rubbing the tip of his nose. From now on, what happened on this spot, stays in this spot, agreed. Agreed. They replied. Hey, Ichigo. Chiffon called him. I'm about to head to the school pool tonight. Would you like to join me? I guess, Ichigo answered. Anything to relieve the tension that happened today. Then it's a date. Chiffon cheered. Whatever floats your boat, Chiffon. Ichigo said as he sighed calmly. Miss President, you already have a full schedule for today. Taisi cried. Really? Chiffon wondered. I thought today was free. Can you pass me my planner? I don't really have it on me. Taisi shyly replied as Chiffon looked at her with her head tilted. Taisi tried to resist her stare but she then gave in to it. Okay, fine, you have nothing planned. Hearing those words made Chiffon smile once more. She then turned to Ichigo. Well, Ichigo. I'm looking forward to our date, tonight. Chiffon giggled. Oi, vey, Ichigo thought as he chuckled sheepishly. Chiffon then went to Taisi who asked her what should she wear for her trip to the pool with him. Taisi sighed as she and Chiffon left. As for Atia, she glared at him as she marched up to him and elbowed him to the stomach, making him cringe down to her height. If she's getting a date, then I want one. Atia announced before she marched off, leaving a surprised Ichigo with Taisi and Chiffon, Satellizer and Kanzuya. Ichigo, what the heck just happened? Kanzuya asked him. I honestly don't know right now, I need to get back to my dorm to get an ice pack. Ichigo said while he winced from the pain in between his legs. I'm feeling the after-stinging effect of Atia's kick, if you can excuse me. Ichigo then left using his Excel turn while enduring the pain in his crotch thanks to Atia, while leaving behind a slightly confused Satellizer and Kanzuya. When he got there and placed an ice pack on his crotch, he began howling in pain like a dragon in heat. I think we should go visit Ichigo later on today to see how he's doing. Kanzuya suggested. What do you think, Satellizer? I don't know, she said. I don't want to impose. I did see his room once. It's not so bad. Kanzuya replied. One thing's for sure, he really loves listening to his music. Satellizer sighed and then nodded. Very well. She agreed. Meanwhile at Kisuke's office, he received a call from Ichigo via communication projector. So you say that Kanzuya has the power to cast freezing abilities without an Irinbar set, huh? Kisuke wondered. Yeah, Ichigo replied. I seen it myself during Satellizer's fight with Miyabi. Kazuha told me that he is special. I see. Kisuke replied as he then pondered over the astounding revelation. This is indeed an astounding discovery. I should look more into this. Kisuke then thought of an idea. Ichigo, the next time you see Kanzuya, have him see me in my classroom. Why? Ichigo wondered. What ya planning on doing, Kisuke? I'm gonna run some tests and see what causes Kanzuya to cast such powerful freezing areas. He replied. In the meantime, I'm gonna help gather some materials for tomorrow's class. Care to help me out? I could, but I kinda got plans. Ichigo answered. Apparently, I have a date tonight. A date? With who? Kisuke asked Ichigo as he sighed. You'll never believe it, but with the student council president, Chiffon Fairchild. Ah snap, Ichigo. Kisuke cried. You are really becoming a ladies' man. It won't be long until they want more than just seeing Y-. Kisuke suddenly felt Ichigo's fist in his face, like it did the last time he spoke with him in Shibuya, though even more painful though. Don't remind me, Ichigo replied as he ended his communication. It's been a couple of hours since Ichigo stopped Miyabi from bullying Satellizer and Kanzuya. But even though the rest of the day was good, he still has the feeling he haven't seen the last of the limiter eater. Ichigo was just leaving one of his classes only to get encountered by Sister Margaret with Chiffon and Taisi. Hello, Ichigo. Do you have a minute? Sister Margaret asked. Sure, Sister Margaret. Ichigo replied. What do you have in mind? The headmistress wants to see how you took down those Nova the other evening. Chiffon said. Yeah, she has been thinking about that for some time. Taisi said. Would you like to come with us to the simulation room? Okay then. Ichigo replied as he followed the gang. Little did he know, Elizabeth, Arnett, Atia and Creo were not far from them. They saw Ichigo following Sister Margaret, so they followed him. A short walk later, Ichigo was standing in the streets of a virtual city as 7 S-class Novas appeared. He glared at them as he remembered the time he slayed each of them with sharp precision and timing back in Shibuya. I kinda like the feel to this place. Ichigo said. It's quite authentic, from the buildings, to the roads and cars, to the length of the place. I appreciate your opinion to the simulation room, Ichigo. Sister Margaret's voice projected out to the room. Just then Elizabeth and the others arrived. The girls saw Ichigo standing in the middle of simulated city. Hey Chiffon, what's Ichigo doing down there? Arnett asked her. Girls, you remembered the time Ichigo saved me and some Pandoras back in Shibuya? Chiffon asked. Yeah, I remembered hearing those rumors. Elizabeth answered. Is that what he's planning to do? That's right. You're going to see history reenacted. Chiffon replied. Interesting, this I want to see. Creo said. Are you ready, Ichigo? Chiffon's voice projected. Remember, it's a simulation. Just take things slow. I'm ready when you are. Ichigo replied as he materialized his Volt weapon and readied himself. Alright. Initiating freezing field. Chiffon said as Ichigo watched the 7 S-class Novas generated their blue crystal formations, enveloping the area towards Ichigo within a 10-block radius. Ichigo immediately ran towards the Novas and the upcoming freezing field. Is Ichigo crazy? Atia cried out. He should know that the freezing field stops all Pandoras in their tracks. Just keep watching, little Atia. He'll be fine. Elizabeth said as she watched what Ichigo might do first. Atia then heeded her words and resumed watching Ichigo. As Ichigo was only 5 inches from the freezing field, he smirked as he immediately used his newly mastered no-interval double excel, vanishing without a trace. Everyone except Chiffon were surprised to how Ichigo mastered a no-interval within a few days of him being here. The Novas were scanning for Ichigo until they found him leaping over the buildings like a frog with boosters. The second the leading Nova found him, it began generating itself for a particle beam. Ichigo immediately used his double excel to leap towards the leading Nova. He then made a deep cut like before, causing the leading Nova to diminish. Whoa, I never seen someone like him move so fast before. Sister Margaret cried in amazement. I agree, headmistress. Elizabeth agreed. He had taken down that Nova within the blink of an eye. Ichigo, he's amazing. Creo said as she was awestruck at his abilities. Everyone was impressed with his abilities, even Atia who was impressed, but doesn't want to show it. Chiffon remained smiling as she watched the event before her very eyes. Because of that, she chose to let the whole school see the male Pandora in action as she flipped a SWCH, broadcasting the training all over the place. All the other students stopped what they're doing to see Ichigo fighting off the Novas. That's Ichigo. One Pandora said. He's amazing. Wow, I know that guy. Another limiter cried. I have class with him. Even Miyabi with her limiters were watching it from the screens in the cafeteria. She watched how the red-haired Pandora took down the Novas easily. She began to remember the time he appeared to save Satellizer and Kanzuya as he displayed his strength before her. Just then a blush adorned her face as she watched him closely. Ichigo, I don't know why, but your fierceness is turning me on. Miyabi said as a stuck smile graced her face to match her blush. She slowly licked her lips as she continued watching him fighting off the Nova with her lust-filled eyes. Her limiters were wondering what's wrong. Something wrong, Miss Miyabi? The blonde-haired limiter asked. Boys, I'm done with hunting limiters. She said. I have a new prey to gobble up, now. Wait, you don't mean Dash. The three boys said. That's right. Miyabi said. Now I am ready to hunt him down. The man who bested me, Ichigo Samuel. Back in the simulation room, Ichigo stood on top of a nearby building as he watched two Novas fall to pieces after performing Senmei Oroshi. He turned just to see the remaining four turn to where he's at. Ichigo smirked as he readied himself. Time I learned some old tricks against those new common foes. Ichigo thought as he went with the attack as he began leaping over the buildings using his double excel. I never knew that Ichigo's such a powerhouse. Arnett said to Chiffon. Looks like you got some competition, huh, Elizabeth? We should be careful, girls. Elizabeth said as she crossed her arms, smirking down at the young man as he charged back at the Novas once more. You might wind up keeping him to yourself one day. Yeah, right. Atiya said sarcastically as she growled. That guy is not my type. Arnett chuckled as she watched Atiya fuming while crossing her arms and looking away, like, and rather literally, a little child. The fourth leading Nova immediately attacked using its blade arms. Ichigo simply used his excel to jump and land on its arm and ran in a streamlined fashion towards the Nova's center. Ichigo immediately saw the other arm coming for him, so he simply slid back with his legs folded back and his arms stretched out and upward, though he used his volt weapon to block the arm, forcing it to fly over him nearly an inch over his nose. When he cleared that hurdle, he flipped himself back up into a no-interval double, and somehow the second leading Nova stood still in place as time stood still. Ichigo stood on its shoulder looking at the remaining three. Hidetsum, Natajiri, Ichigo said as he tapped the tip of his volt weapon on the Nova, causing the Nova to split in half. He then noticed one of the five Nova using its particle beam at him. He evaded it using his no-interval once more and landed on a tall building, 10 blocks away from them. He anticipated what they're going to do as he watched them eyeing on Ichigo while lining up beside each other. What's he planning to do, Prez? Atiya asked. The same thing he did in Shibuya. Chiffon replied to her and the girls as they watched what Ichigo was going to do. Ichigo watched as the remaining three all began charging up, preparing for a combined particle beam. He smirked as he closed his eyes, gripped his volt weapon with both of his hands when a flaming colored aura enveloped his blade. The second the three Novas fired their particle beams simultaneously, Ichigo opened his eyes and jumped off the edge of the building towards the beam's path. What he had done surprised the headmistress and the other third years, along with everyone watching him on the screens all across the school. Time to wrap it up. Sensanzu. Ichigo unleashed his signature attack as he fired a large high-density beam towards the particle beam's path. When the two beams clashed, a strong shock wave was resulted, however Ichigo's attack started to get the upper hand. It grew closer and closer to the remaining Novas. They did put up a fight, but they were all defeated nonetheless as a large explosion with the blast radius stretched to 5 blocks. Arnett, Atiya, Creo, Elizabeth, Taisi and even the headmistress were awestruck as they witnessed Ichigo's abilities firsthand. Chiffon remained impressed. Come on Atiya, look at him. Arnett whispered in her ear while smirking. Her whispering was loud enough for the other girls to hear, the long red hair, the piercing red eyes, those delicious abs, well-built muscles and that DM voice of his. Don't tell me you don't want all of that. A light blush adorned her face alongside her usual scowl as Atiya continued to be persuaded by Arnett. Arnett moaned and sighed as she imagined her having him as her boyfriend, as it made the poor little girl whimper. But then again, you are too flat-chested and midget-sized to match your type. Oh well, them's the breaks, Creo chuckled, causing Atiya to scowl and face the red-haired girl beside her. That may be true, Elizabeth said while she never took her sights off Ichigo, but after this simulation, I'm sure the rumors of a male Pandora will be true and many Pandoras will be going after him, despite their partnerships with their limiters. Good, it's the way us girls are meant to be. Chiffon said. Just because we're partnered with a limiter, doesn't mean we can't have a lover in our lives. So we're gonna have more competition. Atia said. Ah, so the innocent one speaks. I knew you have a crush on Ichigo, Creo smirked at the little third year who scowled. Remember ladies, Chiffon turned as she gave them the smile-o-death look, making a few of them a little nervous. I found him first. Starting tomorrow, I will prepare a plan involving Ichigo. This school's gonna get a whole lot more interesting. Ichigo smiled calmly while he deactivated his Volt weapon as he watched the mushroom cloud he made from his last attack. Hey, Ichigo! Chiffon cried. Great work out there. Thanks. Ichigo turned to her and smirked as he gave her and the others a thumbs up. Just then he noticed from the corner of his eye a camera on the far left corner. Knowing this place, there has to be multiple cameras all around. Hey Chiffon, what's with the cameras? He asked. Well, Chiffon blushed and giggled once more, then Taisi took over for her. Chiffon had turned on the cameras to record and broadcast your simulation all over the school. Taisi projected. Ichigo, be honored now everyone in this school finally know that a male Pandora is here in our school. That's not half bad. Ichigo said while he put his hands on his hips. There are many students who haven't heard of me. At least they now know. Thanks, girls, and I hope you like what you've seen, headmistress. Oh, I have, Ichigo. Sister Margaret said while she applauded. A job well done. Later that night, he returned to his dorm and when he got there he found a letter on his bed. He picked it up and read what it said. Hiya handsome, you must be a little worn from training. Meet me in the pool tonight and we can talk while taking a swim. See you there. Chiffon. Ichigo smirked as he figured she would leave him a message. He put the letter aside as he changed into his black, tight sleeveless shirt and his red swim trunks with the black flame designs on the cuffs of his trunks. He carried his bag with his towel along with his clothes and left to meet up with Chiffon at the school pool. When he got there, he was rather surprised to see that no one else was in the room with him. Strange, I thought the other girls would be here at this time like before. Ichigo thought aloud as he sat down with his feet in the water. What caused it to happen? That was me, Ichigo. Chiffon suddenly appeared behind him, spooking him from behind as he fell into the pool. I asked them if they could let us have some time to ourselves. Seriously, stop doing that. Ichigo cried out as he quickly got back up. Chiffon replied with a simple giggle as she enjoyed her usual playful teasing. She walked past him to the nearest chair as she put her things down as well. As she was putting her things up, Ichigo then noticed something about his injured hand. Somehow the wounds that were on there had miraculously vanished. I bet you're wondering why your hand has healed up so easily, huh? Chiffon questioned him. It must have some kind of healing property, restoring strength, healing wounds that stigmata can't regenerate. He guessed. That's right. Chiffon replied. The pool water is always at room temperature, so it's perfect for us Pandora to relax. It restores our strength and heal most wounds that stigmata can't heal, just like you said. You're catching on pretty quickly, Ichigo. Where's your swim clothes, Chiffon? Ichigo wondered as he turned to her. I already have them on, silly. Chiffon replied as she disengaged her Volt texture to reveal a somewhat small dark red bikini that did little to hide her, well surrounding areas. Her bikini top was her size but a little shorter, causing her melons to appear bigger. As for the bikini bottom, shaped in a thong-like design with the center showing a bit more of her lower region. Seeing that caused Ichigo to get a nosebleed, as he immediately covered it up before Chiffon could see it. Ichigo stammered while blushing madly from the sight of her new, but somewhat revealing bikini. He had a feeling that Chiffon had chosen to wear that all for him as she giggled from watching him blush like a ripe tomato. You like what you see, Ichi-kun? Ichigo was surprised at the new nickname Chiffon gave him. At first he thought she did it to playfully tease him, but then he started to grow into it. Okay, I have to say that your outfit is pretty flashy, yet slightly RTC. Ichigo admitted. I'm glad, because I had just picked this one out, Chiffon said as she walked up to his ear and then whispered, just for you. Ichigo blushed at her words, causing his heart to skip a beat. Just then he noticed that her eyes are always closed. He tried to say it without hurting her feelings. I hope you already realized it, but the way you're looking at me with your eyes closed, yeah, kinda creepy, Ichigo said it to her in a subtle way. Chiffon smiled and giggled. I think it's time I should look at you with my eyes open. Chiffon said as she slowly opened her eyes. Ichigo was entranced at her unique gold eyes with the vertical line down the center of the pupils. Your eyes, they're appealing. Ichigo said, which caused Chiffon to blush easily. I never seen eyes like yours before. It's so rare, so exotic. Ichigo, she thought as she looked up at Ichigo as she saw power emanating through those crimson eyes of his. Her heart began to skip a beat while she blushed. You are one of the few people who saw my eyes, but you're the first one who liked them. I only show my eyes to those I know I can trust or who I like the most. Chiffon said dreamily as she slowly started to confess her feelings. I really like your eyes, too. I can see a calm and kindling flame when you're at your most relaxed, but fierce when in battle. Ichigo blushed and chuckled innocently, in return made Chiffon giggle at him. Just then she walked up to him and wrapped her arms around his back, pressing her bosom against his chest as she snuggled against him. She then continued. Can I tell you something, Ichigo? She asked, causing him to nod. I don't know if it's either a guy or a girl thing, but there's something different about you, something that differs you from the other Pandoras. From the first time I seen you in battle, I had an odd feeling about the Volt weapon you carried. Whenever I look at that scarlet blade of yours, I can see your spiritual side. I guess you're right. Ichigo replied, which surprised her a little. Before I was a Pandora, I think I should show you then tell you, Chiffon. Ichigo walked away towards his bag as he put his towel away. Chiffon watched as he took something out of his bag and returned to her, his prized possession, his combat pass. Chiffon, what I will show you, I want you to keep it a secret. Ichigo said. I can maintain this form for a few minutes at least. What are you about to do? Chiffon asked him. This Ichigo closed his eyes as the combat pass began to glow a light blue and stretches out through his body. Chiffon watched in surprise that she was able to see Ichigo in his Soul Reaper form. This is who I am before I became a Pandora. Whoa, I didn't expect this to happen, Chiffon said as she looked at Ichigo's uniform. What are you, exactly? Yeah, this is me as a Soul Reaper. Ichigo said. Originally, since Soul Reapers are also souls, I turned out to be different. I was the only one of them who still kept their physical self due to my abnormally high spirit energy. My Soul Reaper form isn't finished restoring yet, that's why the stigmata is used as a catalyst so I can materialize my weapon, while my spirit energy is getting restored. Wow, I never expected an answer like this when I had told you about your Volt weapon, Ichigo, Chiffon said as she walked towards him while he gripped his combat pass as he returned to normal. I was surprised at first, but now it's all clear. I'm glad you told me, Ichigo. Thank you, Chiffon wrapped her arms around his neck and then she pulled him down as his lips was pressed against her soft ones. Ichigo tries to wrap his mind at what was just happening. You're really something, Ichi-kun. Chiffon said while sporting her usual smile. I never expect you to be such a really good kisser. Hee, so are you. Ichigo replied as he looked away, chuckling shyly while he blushed darkly. It's I'm first. Really? So was mine. Chiffon said as she hugged him while she pulled him to the edge of the pool. You want to embrace me again? Sure. Ichigo replied shyly. Well then, close your eyes and pucker up. Chiffon ordered him. Ichigo chuckled and did what she said. Chiffon chuckled as she sneaked around him. She chuckled and then pushed him into the water. Why you? Ichigo scowled at her while she laughed at him. Sorry, I couldn't pass up this moment. Chiffon replied while she giggled. She then held her hand out to him. No strong feelings. You're right, no strong feelings. Ichigo replied as she grabbed her hand. Before she could react, Ichigo pulled her into the pool water. She then swam up to the surface beside him and then looked at him with a scowl until it was replaced with her usual calm smile of hers. The two chuckled as they began swimming and playing around in the pool. The next day came and news and rumors of the male Pandora and embrace the two students made were already spread out to every student like wildfire. Everyone who's anyone have heard it. Ichigo was just leaving his class to head to the cafeteria until he saw Chiffon running over to him on his right. Afternoon, Ichi-kun. Chiffon said. Chiffon, good afternoon. Ichigo replied with a smile before Chiffon leaned up to him and pecked him on the lips, shocking every student in the halls. He then turned to see the students looking at him and then back to Chiffon. You're thinking about an open relationship right now, huh? He questioned her. Something like that. Chiffon giggled as she latched her arm around his. Let's talk over lunch, okay? She asked. Sure, I guess. He answered. Ichigo and Chiffon was in the cafeteria. Everyone turned their eyes to the male Pandora with the student council president ordering lunch from Burger Queen. Afterwards, Chiffon began sharing some of her food with Ichigo, like sharing one end of a French fry with him on the other, and they both bit it until they reached the middle until their lips meet the other. Is that the male Pandora, and he's having lunch with the president? One random limiter asked. Whoa, the male Pandora is so hot. A Pandora cried out. I want to date him. You want to drop your limiter for a chance to go with him? Another Pandora asked. Hell yeah. That same Pandora replied. He's so strong, especially during that broadcast we saw the other day. Ichigo overheard all the commotion and chuckled sheepishly at what they're saying about the new open relationship between him and Chiffon. I'm guessing people already heard about the news. How did they even hear it so quickly if it happened just late last night? He questioned her. Yep. Chiffon replied as she ate some of her. High school gossips spreads faster than any news or radio station. I guess you have a point. Ichigo rubbed the back of his head while ate a few more fries and took a sip of his soda. But why do you want us to be in an open relationship? I wanted to show everyone that just because you have a limiter as your partner doesn't mean you have to pursue a romantic interest with them. Chiffon replied. My limiter and I are partners, yet we're okay seeing other people. In other words, you're her little alibi, Ichi-kun. Ichigo turned to see Elizabeth walking to him as she sat her tray down. A smirk was worn on her face as she then sat on Ichigo's left. Take a look around, Ichigo, all those girls would love to drop their limiters for a shot with you. Ichigo turned around as he saw all the Pandoras of all years looking at him, anxious to get their hands on him. So what do you say, Ichi-kun, wanna be our school playboy? Chiffon asked him. I would love to see it happening. Elizabeth said as she leaned over to him, making her melons push themselves out her dress and making him blush. Just know that I'll be coming after that handsome body of yours. Creo too, and Arnett, Atia soon. Just then another voice appeared once more. Hello, Ichigo. Ichigo then felt his spine shiver as he remembered that stuck voice of hers. He turned to see none other than Miyabi Kanazuki standing behind him. Seems Miyabi wants in on the action. Chiffon said. That's surprising. Ever since that time on the roof, I finally realized that you're the perfect guy for me. Miyabi moaned while thinking of him as she licked her lips in a stuck manner. Instead of calling me the limiter eater, call me the Pandora eater and you're my main course. Sweet Kami of Takamagara, Ichigo's voice squeaked. Now playing random music, playing Churu Churu Paya Paya from Rosario Vampire OST. Elsewhere, Kisuke with Kanzuya, Keiho and Arthur were just leaving class. Keiho was very excited about the news she heard. Guys, did you hear the big news? Keiho cried. No, we haven't. Kanzuya answered. What's up? Arthur wondered. I heard from the other students that the student council president is hitched up. With Ichigo. Keiho cried. I recently heard it from Sister Margaret. Kisuke said. I assume that it's an open relationship. Oh, it is. Keiho cried. Oh, if I could get him to go on a date with me, my popularity will skyrocket, maybe even over Elizabeth Mabley. You do realize that it would be a three-way relationship with Chiffon if you do that, right? Kanzuya said, which made Keiho stop and thought about it. More like a HAREM, waiting to happen. Kisuke added. Either way, good luck doing that. Arthur said. Even if that's possible, I already heard from my previous class, that not only the council president and Elizabeth Mabley got dibs on him, but the president is even letting all girls try and date him. Well, how about that? I never knew Ichigo became such a ladies' man. Kisuke said with a calm chuckle. I bet he must have gotten the smooth operator side from his parents. I don't think any man, yet alone Ichigo could handle such a thing like that. Kanzuya said as he and Arthur nodded. Ah, Ichigo, Keiho said dreamily. I wonder where our little Casanova is at, so I can congratulate him. Just then Kisuke and the others stopped to hear rumbling down the halls. They waited for a minute until they saw Ichigo, but they were surprised to see him fleeing down the hall for his life from a stampede of love-struck women. He screamed as much as his lungs could carry as he ran with all the strength his legs can give him. There he is, Kisuke said as Ichigo ran past them, and there he goes. Should we help him? Kanzuya asked. No way, man. Arthur said. I don't want to get in the middle of a stampede. Well, I'm going. Kanzuya said as he immediately ran off to find Ichigo. Kanzuya, come on, man. Kanzuya, here goes. Arthur cried as he and Kisuke ran off following Kanzuya while Keiho was left behind, dreaming about Ichigo. Ah, Ichigo, Keiho said dreamily with hearts fluttering around her. After the fight he had with Miyabi and the announcement for Ichigo being open and up for grabs, the rest of the week into the start of the next week had been more, what's the word, hectic, no. Chaotic, hell yeah. That evening Ichigo headed his dorm, ragged and exhausted. He walked towards his bed, limped like a zombie and laid head first onto the soft mattress before him. He took a deep but raspy breath and sighed in relief as he was back in his own dorm, the very place he would call sanctuary. Ah geez, why am I always stuck in the middle of a love affair? Ichigo said to himself. I'm so tired, I could crawl back to that cryogenic capsule and sleep once more for another 20 years. Those girls ran me ragged every single time and they pop up in the most inconvenient of places, especially one time Miyabi pinned me in my own dorm. Flashback. Ichigo returned to the boys' dorms after evading the mass of girls chasing him. He sighed in relief as he was just a keycard away from sanctuary. As he swiped the keycard, the locks on his door unlocked themselves and Ichigo walked in. Before he could react, he was suddenly pinned against the back of his door by several daggers. What the dash? Ichigo shrieked. Who pinned me in my own home? I finally caught you, Ichigo Samu, a familiar sultry voice said inside the lightless room, like a fly in a spider's web. The woman smirked as she stepped out of the shadows and slowly sashayed towards him until they're face to face. She stood in front of him wearing a lacy lingerie ensemble, a black corset that squeezes her melons like they're ready to pop out, with a see-through that reveals her stomach, and her thong-like panties were laced all around, snugging all of her lower curves very well. What? Miyabi. Ichigo gasped, which was replaced by a knowing scowl. Of all places a girl should find me. Why the hell are you in my room, wearing that? Ah, don't you like me welcoming you to your own dorm? She playfully pouted before she caressed his left side of his face with her right hand. Come on, Ichigo, it's a guy's dream for a girl to be welcoming their boyfriend while wearing the sexiest of clothes. What, boyfriend? Ichigo asked. Okay, I have to admit that's pretty hot, but boyfriend? Last I remembered, you ran off in fear of me the day you bullied Satellizer and Kazuya. True, she admitted while she pressed her body against him, but after that time, I began remembering that DMing voice, that power of yours, that fiery blaze in your eyes, makes me want to have you to myself. Even the very thought of you is turning me on. She gasped and sighed while imagining her fantasy with Ichigo. She moaned and began FNDLNG herself with every imaginative vivacious moment between the two, causing Ichigo to blush mildly from her stuck nature and grow nervous from how she moaned. I gotta get out of here, Ichigo thought as he managed to get his right arm free. He then materialized his Zanpakuto and cut down the daggers around him and attempted to escape, until Miyabi stopped him from opening the door. Ichigo, I'm gonna make you mine whether you like it or not, Miyabi said while she licked her lips. Now pucker up. Miyabi attempts to embrace the red-haired Shinigami hybrid until he used his Excel turn at the last second when he saw a tiny opening he could escape from. He had to jump out of the window and flee as fast as he possibly can. You can run, my love, but you can't hide, Miyabi cried out as she got dressed and chased after him. Flashback ended. Well, it comes to show, love is like a battlefield. Ichigo sighed, and unfortunately I'm their prize. Ichigo turned on the TV and began watching his anime while he relaxed himself. As Ichigo was relaxed, he was unaware that Miyabi reappeared behind him from a secret compartment she made behind his bed. She quietly slid down on the bed and crawled towards him wearing a white veiled see-through nightgown with matching lace panties and white stockings. At least I'm safe for now, Ichigo said aloud. Yes, you are, Miyabi said as her chuckle spooked Ichigo as she grabbed Ichigo before he could react. Ichigo screamed loudly as his voice echoed through the night sky. Later that same evening, Satellizer was walking through the dark path, en route to the girls' dorms. She reflected on the time she saw Ichigo unleash such power from his Volt weapon, once from his bout with Miyabi and again against the Novas in his simulation training. Ichigo, I never seen a weapon like his turning into flames like that, Satellizer thought. What kind of weapon could do such a thing? I need to know more when I see him again. As she was nearing the entryway to the dorms, she suddenly stopped as she sensed a presence nearing her from the shadows. Who's there? Show yourself, Satellizer called out bluntly. Satellizer L. Bridget, Ingrid said as she stepped out of the shadows to Satellizer's right-hand side. She slowly walked towards her while Satellizer turns to her with her cold gaze. Who are you? She asked. Oh, pardon my manners, she said while she crossed her arms under her melons. My name is Ingrid Bernstein, maybe you've heard of me. Are you here to avenge your salty friend? Satellizer asked with venom in her voice while she materialized Nova BLD and raised it up to her neck. If you did, then you would be making the same mistake she did. Anyway, I am known here as the Guardian or Order, Ingrid said while she lightly pushed away Satellizer's blade from her throat. I use my abilities to punish chaos and keeping the peace in this school from troublemakers like you. Is that so? Satellizer replied, still keeping her cold glare locked onto Ingrid and her weapon firmly grasped in case if she makes a move. As a Pandora, it's my job to keep order in this academy with every fiber of my being, Ingrid explained. Find yourself a limiter by noon tomorrow. I'll make you pay for your insolence, you and your limiter both. What about Ichigo? Satellizer asked. He saved Kazuya and myself. He's the only male who doesn't have a limiter. What do you plan to do with him, huh? Ingrid immediately stopped, the second she said Ichigo's name. She remembered the one time last week when she was passing through the halls until she saw many students watching Ichigo's training broadcast all over the school. Her cold glare never faded back then as it hasn't now, when she turned her head slightly and shifted her eye directly at Satellizer. If I see Ichigo again, I won't do the same thing I will do to you and your limiter soon. When I see that wannabe again, I won't show him any mercy. Satellizer watched as Ingrid walked away after the cold threat she gave to her for Ichigo if she sees him again. She shrugged her shoulders, deactivated her volt weapon and turned away. Before Satellizer makes her leave, she muttered one last thing. Big words, but they're meaningless all the same. Satellizer muttered aloud, causing Ingrid to turn back to Satellizer, who was walking away. She squinted her eyes in pure anger as she scoffed and resumed walking off. Little did the two students know, Keiho was hiding behind the wall as she overheard the conversation between the two girls. This is bad. I have to tell Kazuya and Ichigo right away. Keiho thought as she immediately fled from the scene. The next week came and Ichigo was heading to his next class, dead tired as usual. Kazuya, Arthur and Keiho was just passing through the halls when they saw Ichigo walking by. They immediately ran to meet him. Hey Ichigo. Kazuya called him, getting his attention. Oh, it's you guys, he yawned loudly, how you all going? We're fine, but you look terrible. Arthur said. Having trouble sleeping? No, you can blame the Pandoras for chasing me relentlessly. Ichigo replied. They couldn't stop since the announcement last week. They even went as far as forming a secret group, bent on trying to catch me. They even were desperate to catch me with their volt weapons. Flashback, last week / playing the funny chase. Ichigo was on the run once again during free PRD from Pandoras who wielded mid-ranged dual weapons. His head and hair was completely drenched in sweat like he ran through a flood. We won't let you get away, Ichigo. One Pandora cried. Give up and surrender. Another Pandora called out. Ah, come on. Ichigo cried. This is too much. He continued running until he spotted another group, only this time, they are using their stigmata surveillance system volt weapons. He had no choice but to make a turn through the dorms. The dual-wielded Pandoras all stopped to catch their breaths. The leader of the group stood in front of them with a smirk on her face. The target is heading your way. The leading Pandora said. Repeat, the target is heading your way. Ichigo slowed his running down until he's merely jogging. He simply sighed while looking back and then continued moving forward. That was close, he said while jogging past the boys' dorms. Those girls really don't know when to quit. At least I am nearing the other entrance. Not like I am gonna run into a trap. Irony smacked him as he ran through the other entrance, only to be caught in another trap. He was surrounded by girls wielding mid-ranged and others who are masters in Excel turns. Ah, damn it. Ichigo muttered. Ichigo Samyu. He turned to see Arnett speaking to him using a bullhorn. She leading the group surrounding him. He face-palmed himself as a result. Give up already, Ichigo. You can keep running, but you won't stand a chance against all our forces combined. Arnett questioned her announcement to him. Come on, Arnett. Aren't you being a little extreme about this? He cried while scowling. Sorry Ichigo. I still care for you, but if it means catching you, then yes, we're being extreme about this. Arnett cried as she ordered the girls to charge towards him. Ichigo watched as the girls with their mid-ranged weapons were in attack range. One after the other each of those Pandoras all tried to snare Ichigo, but he countered them by using his volt weapon to parry them away for just a second, and then when he found an opening, he immediately jumped up using his super strength. Not bad Excel team, go. Arnett cried as she ordered them to move. They immediately used their Excel turns to counter Ichigo's escape while he's in the air. Ichigo caught on to their next move and Ichigo immediately used his Excel to counter their moves. Then he leapt out of their web until our net appeared behind him suddenly with her volt weapon in the form of large double-headed scythe. "I got you now," she cried as she and Ichigo clashed. Our net was steadily gaining the upper hand against him since her weapon was long and double-headed. Ichigo received a few light cuts on his arms and torso while in the middle of blocking. He immediately blocked it once more as he used his Excel turn to jump back from her. "Damn it, that hurt," Ichigo thought. "Sorry about that, Ichigo," Arnett said while she walked towards him, getting his attention. "Once I get a hold of this, I can't quite control myself. Now, please do all of us a favor and surrender." Arnett immediately charged towards Ichigo with an intent to wound him then capture him. Ichigo growled and charged towards Arnett while holding his grip on his weapon tightly. Just as Arnett was going to make the first move, Ichigo responded with using his Excel turn to confuse her. "Nice try, but no dice." Arnett immediately lashed out her scythe, but just as the scythe's blade was about to hit him, she saw a small smirk on Ichigo's face which surprised her. "No dice indeed for you. Triple acceleration," he cried. "What? You can do a triple?" Before Arnett could react, Ichigo immediately went even faster to the point that she couldn't catch his movements now that he's moving even faster than before. She looked all around for Ichigo to make his next move until she felt a heavy blow impacted with her stomach. She was stunned that Ichigo reappeared in front of her with his fist hitting her stomach. "Sorry Arnett, no strong feelings," Ichigo chuckled. "None needed," Arnett smirked while her vision was getting blurry. "You're good, very good." Ichigo watched as Arnett passed out and her volt weapon dissolved. He sighed in relief before he heard the sounds of the other Pandoras coming to Arnett's location. He took the opportunity and left using his Excel before the girls got to Arnett. Flashback and ended. "Wow, you must be really wiped out from that," Keiho said. "You have no idea," he replied. "Right now I have one more class before free PRD, after that I'll rest up." "Okay, get well soon Ichigo," Kanzuya said while Ichigo waved to them when he took the next hall down. Despite the ongoing moments of the Pandoras chasing Ichigo, he still pondered on how to mstr the Tempest turn even though he was dead tired. He sighed while shaking his head until he bumped into one of the students, dropping her belongings. Unfortunately, the person he accidentally bumped into was none other than Ingrid Bernstein. "Sorry, Ingrid," Ichigo said, as he helped pick up her belongings until he came across an old picture of her when she was young with another Pandora. "Give me that," Ingrid yelled as she snatched the picture from his fingers before he could wonder who was that. "I don't need your help, Samuel." "Well, excuse me princess." Ichigo back sassed Ingrid getting a bitter glare from her. "I already said sorry. I don't know what your deal is, but whatever it is you don't need to lash it out on me. My deal is that I am in charge of keeping order in this school from troublemakers like you." Ingrid barked back. "Well, you're doing such a bang-up crappy job with doing that, especially falsely accusing people for something they didn't do." Ichigo rebuked, getting her angry enough to materialize one of her tonfas and swung out at him, only for him to evade it by leaning back from her attack. "She's fast. That one almost took my head off," Ichigo thought as he stood back and looked at her. "You're lucky I can't do this while there's people around. Next time, I won't be that fortunate." Ingrid turned and started to walk away until. "Tell me who is on that picture of yours?" Ichigo asked. "I don't need to explain it to a juvenile delinquent like you," she rebuked, getting Ichigo irritated. "Stay out of my way, got that?" With a huff, Ingrid turned away and walked off to her next class. Ichigo sighed as he turned away as well and walked off to his lunch PRD, unaware that Ingrid took one last look at him walking off. "I don't see what's special about that guy, he's just a Pandora. Soon enough, I will crush him as I will do to Satellizer and her limiter." Ingrid thought as she glared at Ichigo once more before she resumed walking off. Sheesh, what's got her panties in a twist? Ichigo rebuked as he was inches away from his classroom. That is until Chiffon arrived, only difference is that she's not sporting her usual smile. Ichigo, I saw what happened. She said. Hey, in my defense, I had already apologized. Ichigo blurted out. Come with me, Ichigo, I want to talk to you. Chiffon said. What about my class? Ichigo asked. Don't worry, as long as you're with me, then you'll have a reason that you're out of class. Chiffon replied as the two were reaching the student council office. When he walked in, he saw two other students. One was a third-year Pandora with burnt orange hair with light brown eyes. Beside her was a second-year Pandora with short black hair with matching black eyes. Who might you two be? Ichigo wondered. Ichigo, I would like you to meet third-year Virginia and second-year Kaoru. Chiffon introduced him. Oh, I'm sorry. Ichigo replied while chuckling nervously. Pardon my manners, pleased to meet you too. Likewise, Ichigo. Virginia answered while smiling a little. It's a pleasure to meet you, too. We saw your training against the Novas. Kaoru said. You were amazing out there. Hee, thanks for the compliments. Ichigo chuckled calmly as he then cleared his throat and turned to Chiffon. Aside the greets and compliments, what the real reason you got me here, Chiffon? Getting straight to the point, huh, Ichigo? Chiffon rhetorically asked with a slight giggle and then a sigh as she sat on the desk beside him with her legs crossed. Ichigo, what you didn't know was that these two students were fighting alongside Ingrid and myself during the 9th Nova clash a few years back. Ever since the Nova clash had ended, Ingrid's personality was drastically changed. Kaoru explained. She was once very calm and sweet, before she took on a more serious and strict personality. I remember that when I first met her that one night. Ichigo replied and then asked. What caused her to change her personality? Ichigo suddenly saw Chiffon give him a picture from her desk. What he saw was a picture of the team during the 9th Nova clash. He saw each of the students in that platoon before they fought the Nova that day. When he looked back up at the girls, he saw Virginia and Tyrol tearing up. Ichigo, a friend of ours in that platoon, died to save the first years. Chiffon explained. Her name was Marin Maxwell. Ichigo then remembered seeing a similar picture from Ingrid when he accidentally bumped into her earlier. On it only has her and Marin. She was a valuable leader and a special friend to us. Virginia explained while she and Kaoru wiped their tears away. Unless if you have something important you need to do, you're more than welcome to listen to what happened during the 9th Nova clash. Ever since the night I met Ingrid, she was like you Pandoras, strong, independent, and to my admittance, appealing, Ichigo explained. When I had looked into her eyes, I knew something was off about her. Sure, she was strict, moody and quite argumentative, but when I see her, I knew that she has some kind of secret that made her who she is. Now that I know what caused her to be like that, I want to know more. Later on, after school ended for the day, Ichigo resumed his training with Kazuha and Maria, striving to perfect the Tempest turn. So far, Ichigo is still struggling with trying to sync the timing. He did easily with Shuunpa and his acceleration turns, but the Tempest turn was by far his hardest high-end skill he wanted to MSTR. Ichigo kneeled down gasping heavily on the ground as he was gradually getting worn from the innumerable attempts to try it out. Maria and Kazuha helped him out. Ichigo, I think we should take a break for now. Maria suggested with a hint of concern in her voice. You've been at this for 5.5 hours. Yeah, I should, Ichigo replied as he took a seat. After taking a deep breath, he punched the white panels on the ground out of frustration. Man, why can't I MSTR something like this? I know how you feel, Ichigo. Kazuha said while wrapping her arm around him as she tries to cheer him up. Mastering the Tempest turn isn't easy. It took me some time to MSTR that ability. There's no need to rush, just be patient and then it'll come to you. Alright then, Ichigo sighed as he got back up. I'm gonna call it a day, I need some rest at least. Alright, then. Maria said, feeling concerned for him as he attempts to leave, until, Ichigo, wait. What is it? Ichigo wondered. Give it time, Maria said. I believe you'll find the right beat. Right, thanks for that, Maria. Ichigo replied as he left the training room as it shuts down. Shortly then, Ichigo was sitting on top of the roof of the tallest building watching the moon. There are times like now that Ichigo stare at the moon on some nights just to contemplate over what's going on at the moment. He sighed as he brushed his crimson hair to the side. Man, so much is happening all at once, that it's giving me a headache. Ichigo thought. I need a place for myself, even if it's just for a few minutes. Anything. Ichigo remembered the time Seishin teaching Ichigo about one's inner world. If anyone has experience with seeing one's inner world, it was him, since he was there many times since the first time he met Zangetsu. He remembered the day Seishin taught Ichigo one move that he knows that can help get him to see his inner world. Flashback. Ichigo, I do have one ability that can help you to enter your inner world. Seishin said. My dad taught me how to perform this to get the final Getsuga Tensho. It's called Jinzen. Jinzen, what's that? Ichigo asked. Jinzen is a form of meditation with your Zenpaku. Seishin explained while he sat down in a meditative pose. People have their ways of performing Jinzen, but the way I do it is recommended. Doing this requires the user to be in a calm state before entering one's inner world. Doing this at first may anger your Zanpaku spirit, but afterwards your spirit will allow you in at times. Go ahead and give it a shot. Okay, then. Ichigo replied as he did the same thing Seishin did. He took a deep breath before he closed his eyes and plunged himself into his inner world. Flashback ended. Ichigo looked at his hands for a second, and then he rolled up his right coat sleeve to look at his stigmata. He pondered over an idea he thought of until he remembered Kisuke telling him one time after he woke up in his lab from his 20-year coma. Since your powers are almost gone, I tweaked them so you can gain the superhuman abilities you have in your Soul Reaper form, hollow powers and all, from flash stepping to firing your signature moves. You can use them to your extent without turning into your Soul Reaper form. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 4. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Takamagara 2012 on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.